And so selling is really, I view selling as consultant. If I don't have what you need or somebody needs, then I really don't have anything to sell.
Sales Ascenders, it's Chris here. Happy Wednesday. Hey, today, some other things we're going to be talking about is, of course, spotlighting yet another amazing, really talented, experienced business owner here as a fellow sales ascender. We're going to bring him out in just a second. Here's why you want to stick around and listen to this. As entrepreneurs, leaders, business owners, sales and marketing professionals, here's the thing that's so hard to do, yet it is a game changer. One word: focus. Focus. And some of you are probably already looking the other way, like, oh, dang it. Yeah, literally, I was having this conversation earlier this morning and yesterday, and I'm constantly reminding myself to focus. Focus is one of the most powerful things all of us business owners and leaders can do. Here's why. We're constantly juggling all these different plates. We're about to bring out another sales ascender that is an expert in this area, practice this, and has built a wonderful, awesome business and completely dominated in his sphere of influence. And so the vehicle that we get to talk through about this is going to be in real estate. It's going to be in software. And I truly believe, I know that we've practiced this and I've seen breakthroughs in my own life on this. If we really respect how much effort it takes to fully solve just one problem really, really effectively, the amount of focus and depth that it takes, it's a game changer. In fact, the ones that do that, we all know their names because of their commitment, because of their focus. So that all said, we get to talk to an expert and someone that is practicing has practiced this and is constantly practicing it. And his name is Ron Williams. Ron, how's it going?
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm excited for this conversation because I know I need to hear this today and everyone else does as well.
Outstanding. Yeah, I'm excited about it too.
Where are you from, Ron?
Central Illinois, Champaign, Illinois, which is a lot of people don't know, it's the birthplace of the modern internet.
The modern internet.
Yeah, the browser, the HTML was created in Champaign, Illinois at University of Illinois. I wasn't part of it, or I'd be on an island someplace. Right. I know some of the guys that were. So,
I mean, hey, what's the five closest people around you and the network you roll around in? So, perfect. So you're in Illinois, and where did entrepreneurship? We'll get into your story a little bit, and then we'll get into some more of the specifics of what you've built at this point. So where did entrepreneurship and, being a business owner start for you?
Oh my gosh. It's one of those things, Chris. I think that it's at some level, I think it's born in us. There's some creative aspect to growing businesses. We have a desire to create, we have a desire to lead and to serve and to create something that's amazing. And once you've got that bug, it's hard to get rid of, right?
I don't know that we ever do, but that's a good thing though.
Yeah, I don't think
that's a good thing. I like that. The comment that you made of, it's a creative process. I always like to refer to entrepreneurs as business artists because there is so much creativity that goes into it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I always, what I think of business is kind of the intersection of sport and war. Because we're grappling for succeeding against competitors out in the marketplace, and it's worth more than a Super Bowl ring, but you hit it big. But anyway, so my first business was I believe back in 1992 was my first business that I owned. So
okay, 92. What industry?
At that point, I was what's commonly known as a headhunter. I was an executive recruiter.
Oh, okay.
So I recruited for different technology companies across the United States and very niche kind of stuff,
So you were traveling around, swooping up some talent.
Yes. Yeah. Most all done on the phone though, unless you had to,
Okay. That's good.
You learn to use the phone. It's like I can make as much money or more money just making phone calls. So that's all we did was stay on the phone.
I don't know that if I've met a recruiter that hasn't made really good money. But it's a hard position though.
It is. It's very complex. It's I think it's one of the most complex sales that you could ever do.
I'd like to hang here for just a second,
Sure.
because we often any business owner has a sales process, or they don't, or they're not a business owner.
Right.
So let's talk sales process. Let's get into that sales process. I mean, how long were you doing that?
Over 15 years. And so it was quite a while,
If,
and
if
got
you
good at
pass,
it.
if you pass the decade mark, something went right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so let's talk about that sale a little bit, though, because that's a big sale. I mean, if you're looking everywhere to find talent, and odds are they're not going to stay there, they're going to have to go relocate.
Right.
You got
Yeah.
to talk. There's a lot. That's a people having a hard time. Like, oh, hey, when you're on your computer, wherever you want to be, instead of clicking this button, go over here and click it this way. That's a lot easier, even though it's still behavior change. Like getting someone to completely uproot their life. Like that's a way different sale.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, when you think about it, so, it's a big ticket, it's a high ticket sale. So,
Mhm.
and it's what they call a complex sale, where you've got a lot of decision makers. On the one side of it, you've got a corporation who's paying you a big check. My average commission after we got going was, easily in the $30,000 range for one transaction or higher. And then on the other side, you've got a job seeker or somebody who's available to go to work. And so you're brokering that transaction. And what's interesting about it is I never meet the candidate. I talk to him on the phone. It's like I get to know him, but I've never met him. And this is, of course, before Zoom and FaceTime and all that stuff. And never meet the employer. And I've never set foot in this plant, never been to the city, and yet I got to convince this guy or gal to, quit their job, pack up the kids, the wife, sell the house and move over to some city that I'll probably never be in, and work for a guy that I've never met and be in a plant that I've never met.
So let's hang on this for a second, okay? Because I just all the mastermind owners, leaders out there, coaches, consultants, we're hopping on Zoom. We at least can see, we get some nonverbal cues. And we're selling information, we're selling confidence, we're selling accountability, speed, we're selling systems and tactics. We're selling all different types of things. What you just said though is I'm on a phone. I've never been to the other company. So it's not my company. I don't know it inside and out. When we're usually selling our product and service, we built it, we know it. And then, hey, you're going to go leave somewhere else. So it's like, you're not like the realtor. You're not, what's Rogers? What's his name? I can't think of his name. The friendly, anyway, you don't know the area basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different questions. Oh, well, what is it like there? Is it good to live there? There's going to be all these things. I mean, you talk about the decision-making process, that alone, the decision makers, that's a crazy sale.
Well, it's incredible too, because every one of these, you got to think about every one of these openings. If an employer or company is ready to pay me a big check to go find somebody and, convince them to come to work for their company, it's costing them a lot of money to not have that position filled. And, so a lot of times they've been at it for a long, long time, but most of the positions are very kind of niche, esoteric. I remember different openings where they'd say, hey, we need somebody who can build smart airbags, and they've got to use a AMD, whatever microprocessor chip, and use this and that and this type of software. And so this is all stuff that is way, way over my head. And then next week it's something entirely different. Now it's somebody that knows how to use embedded microprocessors in a bulldozer, or create a cell phone. And so not only do I not know who these people are or who the companies are even that do that, but every week I'm like learning a new domain. And
Wow.
so you have to, and so when you find somebody, how do you even rank them against other people that have the same skill set? So it's you learn to learn very fast, and you learn to network like nobody's business. I think it gave me a lot of strength, and I got to a place where I could get a referral on virtually every call that I made. I was getting people referred to me.
So powerful. Earlier, before we jumped on and started having this conversation with you all, Ron was sharing with me how he always has a notepad handy.
Yeah.
Now I know. It's like you're always learning new stuff. You got to be writing it down.
Yeah, all the time, man. You just get to it, and you just learn to write things down. But I was fortunate that I got good at it, and got
Yeah.
very good at it, and made a lot of money and grew a couple of recruiting businesses. And then at one point just said, I've got to try something different. So,
Yeah. What do you think, what do you feel it was that created that turning point where you're like, cause you said, I got good at it. What was it like? Oh, you felt yourself like starting to get good at it and get momentum.
well, I think there's, man, that's a smart question, Chris. I think it's that, we all struggle with imposter syndrome. Although, before long before they called it imposter syndrome, we all had it anyway. I did.
Yeah.
And you're always feeling like, man, I don't know enough. And so you're learning. But then at some point, I guess there was a couple things that happened. One was at one point I got good enough that I started to realize I'm making more money than the candidates that I'm placing. I'm making more money than the employers that are my clients, and I'm doing more deals. And you realize that they need my help. They needed my help. And I think when that clicked inside of me, that I realized I didn't need them. I was going to work with them if I wanted to, then your language begins to change, where you begin to verbalize, begin to approach the client a new way and say, look, this is a kind of a three-way deal, John. It's between you and the candidate, and it's between me. And, and it's got to be a win-win for all three of us. And I think when you begin to take charge, you find that when you begin to lead, they want you to lead. And I think that that's true in any kind of sales, that the client actually, they fight you on it a lot of times, but they want your leadership. They want to know that you're the guru in the thing. And that's why they're paying you the money for it. And so the more that you allow yourself to take leadership, the more, and what I saw was then companies started to just line up and, and ask for when they could have time to, when could I work on the project or something. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
I hope that everyone listening, whenever they listen to this, caught a few of the things that you said, because they're life changing in terms of value, in terms of the sales process, in terms of how you feel about your business. And one of them is leadership, you mentioned. So I just put in the banner there. Are you a leader in your sales process? Because that turning point that you started to articulate was, once I started understanding how much they need this, and then you made a comment earlier that stated how much it's costing them to not have this problem solved.
right. Yeah.
It wasn't made up value. It wasn't some marketing value stack. It was, here's real costs. And so there's a wisdom, there's a knowledge, there's an understanding of your marketplace, how businesses work, how to serve businesses. When those things click, it's a knowing, and that brings about a different type of confidence. And I like the way you said it. You said, I started talking and approaching clients differently. And so for any business owner listening to this, any sales professional, marketing professional, there's one of the biggest fears we come across all the time in client work and everything is, I'm scared to be that guy. I'm scared to be that girl, that salesy feel. It's a lack of conviction. It's a lack of confidence. It's a lack of understanding of what is actually taking place. They don't understand their value and what they're bringing to the table. What you said was, once I understood my real value, I was able to carry myself a little bit different and lead them. As sales professionals, as business owners, people are giving us money for a reason. It's
Right.
to solve a problem, to remove a pain, if we didn't need to be led, then we would have already done it ourselves.
Right. And I think one of the things I learned too, that, several years into this, so, in order to do that well, you got to get really, really good at sales. And one of the things that I learned was that true selling is not about what I say, it's about what I ask. And so you learn to ask really, really smart questions. I got to a place, Chris, where, years into it, where, I'd be laying awake at night or something, whatever I was doing, and all of a sudden it'd be like, this light bulb goes, wow, this is a smart question. And I'd have to go write it down real quick, because I'd go, I knew that by having that question and using that question appropriately, it was going to make me deals and it was going to make me money. And so selling is really, I view selling as consultant. If I don't have what you need or somebody needs, then I really don't have anything to sell. And it's not about manipulation or cajoling or arm twisting. It's about listening and pulling the needs out of you, and then trying to find the value match between, can I really take you where you want to go? And I think in that way, it takes away any kind of feeling of salesiness. It's like, and when you get to a place where you go, look, and you start to articulate to people, I don't work with everybody. There's only a handful of companies that I work with. And you may be one and you may not be one, and that's okay. We're going to part as friends either way. In other words, I'm not here to convince you of anything or to sell you anything. I'm just here to learn about your organization and see if there's something that I can do that might be of value to you. And then when you do that, it just completely removes any, fear of being over salesy or anything. You're there to listen and serve.
What you're saying is so powerful, and I feel that at least the ones that I've talked to that have broken through and succeeded and are still running a business, are still in sales, or still doing their thing, they've come to that realization in one way or another. Maybe they articulate it slightly differently, but it's really asking great questions. It's understanding what's taking place, and you know where you fit, and you know how to do it fast. So I love that. So 15 years you spent some time in this space, and you're ready for a change. There's a shift. We all feel that. I've felt that at some point where you're like, I'm beating my head against the wall. I need something different. Where did you go?
Well, it was kind of interesting. I went and sat for the realtors class, and I took the realtor class because I thought at the time I was going to start buying properties and, be a landlord and stuff. And that never came about. Once I saw what landlords did, I decided I didn't want to do that. But I was looking at buying and flipping properties. And so I went and took the real estate class, and, a couple of the women in my life, my sister and sister-in-law and stuff were going, why don't you go in and take the license? And I was like, I don't need it. I just want to know what they know. But I did. I took the class and got the license. And then one thing led to another. Next thing I know, I'm a realtor. And so joined up. Coldwell Banker called me the next day and said, hey, we heard you got your license. And they knew me as a salesperson. And would you come over and talk to us? And so one thing led to another, and I became a realtor, probably without researching it a lot. So.
Got it. So you're in this new industry. And the plan is to, you said, buy and flip?
Well, no, when I became a realtor, it was, okay, I'm gonna learn how to sell properties, how to market and sell properties, right? And kind of put the whole buy and flip stuff on the back burner, and just never got back to it. And when I became a realtor, I discovered a pretty big problem that I started to see some problems. The first one was there's a lot of realtors. They're absolutely commoditized. I mean, there's so many realtors in every market, and everybody's related to one or more, and your neighbor is, and so I realized pretty quickly the only way for me to rise above the noise was I had to niche down. And I wasn't going to hang around for 20 years to try to get to a reasonable income, and so I wanted to grow fast as a realtor, and so I decided to niche, and that's when I started looking at new construction, and started to niche down into new construction, and that's where everything else kind of began to launch from there.
But it didn't stop there, though.
No. So I got into new construction, and Chris, I started to discover some problems that I really didn't realize the scope of what was happening at that time. And it would take me a few years to really get that. But I started to discover, when I started focusing on new construction, that I couldn't find. So here I am, a realtor, not a big city, much smaller area than where you are. And I couldn't find most of the neighborhoods where somebody could build. And I just thought, well, that's weird. You can't, there's these neighborhoods, and a lot of them are kind of played out where they only have 5 or 6 home sites left, and you couldn't find them. You just had to know it was there. It was not listed with a realtor. So it was not on the MLS. A lot of them didn't even have a website. And, a lot of developers who are land developers don't build websites. They just have their land. And when I really got into it after about a year of this or so, it was like, my gosh, this is over half of the places where somebody can build that not only did I not know about, but nobody knows about. One realtor knows about one, another one knows about 2 or 3 more, and you just have to know. And so this kind of at one stage of the game, it dawned on me that it's like, wow, if I'm the only realtor that knows about all these, that means we're all kind of fundamentally lying to the buyer when we're telling them what their options are on where they can build, but then furthermore, who to build with, because there's all kinds of builders. So it turns out that over 60% of new home neighborhoods are never listed with a realtor.
Wow, that's huge.
Out there. And the realtors haven't aggregated them. And over 70%, probably more like 75, 80% of the home builders, these small builders, are also not on the web. And so, there's a lot
Where
of
do you go?
Where do you go? Right.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just tracking with you and like, oh, where do you go? What something as you're saying this, I know kind of a theme we're discussing today is this idea of focus. And so, you were talking about, man, in order to level up, I really needed to niche down. You step into this broad area of real estate. You start selling, you look at new building, new construction, you realize like, oh my gosh, actually, majority of your options, you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Most people aren't getting that type of information. And there's a lot of really great ways to, build your life, build your home that people aren't getting access to. You found a really niche problem. Mm-hmm. In your words, there's so many realtors everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of people, probably having these different thoughts, but who's really focused on this one area? You found an underserved market.
Right.
Hopefully someone's hearing that or underlines that. Find an underserved market.
Yep.
That's it, niche down. And that's kind of where you planted new focus. So as you spent more and more time there, you identified the problem. What were some of the solutions that you started building?
Well, so what we originally, to start with, I just had this notebook, and it was like, and everybody was wanting to borrow the notebook, that had all the neighborhoods and the builders in it. And that took me quite a while to just aggregate that. And I was like, well, this has got to go on the web. And so I hired a team of developers, and I said, guys, build me a website where I'm not techie, and as much as I want to be, I'm not. And said, look, I don't want to have to call you every time I update it. So you need to make it so, and Facebook was getting started around then, and said, look, make it as easy to do as a Facebook page where I want to be able to get on and create, and I want to have every new home neighborhood in my market, every single one. If it's got just one available lot in it, because it's an option, and it's going to be a search engine for buyers who want to build, where they can go to my website, this, one website. And I was the only realtor that was there. It was about, me providing more value to the new construction buyer, but also to the builder and to the land developer. And so I didn't know it at the time, but that's, now I would call that a multi-sided marketplace. And what happened was, we built this first version of it. And I don't know if you want me to share with you, but it was, things began to change. And very, very interesting conversations began to happen. Can I tell you a little bit about that? Or
I'd love to hear about it. We're all business owners, and so part of getting into this process, it's this idea of focus. It's this idea of how much it really takes to solve just one problem really effectively. And so we'd love to hear more story and detail on it.
Well, so we created this website. We called it Hoodle. And the whole premise of Hoodle, which kind of a really goofy name, but it actually does have meaning. It's a mashup word of neighborhood as the hood and Google. And so it's a search tool. I was trying to solve the problem of how do I find neighborhoods where somebody can build, and came up with that and bought the domain, and we put up the website. And what happened next was where it really got interesting. that the Coal banker that I worked for, which was one of the biggest franchises. It wasn't mine, but one of the biggest franchises in the Coal banker system said, "Hey, we'd like you to meet with the CEO of Coal banker." And he flew in. We met for over an hour, and I didn't know the guy from anybody. He sure didn't know me, but he said, "This is a problem in every city in the United States, and if you're planning on taking this outside of Central Illinois, then we'd like you to brand it as Coal banker." And short time after that. And so that's, voice from one of the first voices from the real estate industry that was a leader in the real estate industry. And short time after that, the home building industry, local home builders association said, "Hey, would you come in and show the builders what you're making?" And I went in and that was kind of the first time we really went public with it. And there was about 50 builders there. And builders were going, "Oh, this needs to become like a multiple listing service for home builders." Or somebody said, "This is like going to be like Airbnb for home building." And I still wasn't quite grasping it. And then, the next day, they called me up and asked me to come into their office, the home builders group, and said very much the same thing. "This is a problem in every city in the United States. Hope you don't mind, but we've already spoken to the National Association of Home Builders, and they'd like to know if they could meet with you." And so one thing led to another, and all of a sudden, I've moved from being headhunter to realtor for a short time to now am growing a national web platform for the home building process across the United States. So
crazy how big a small problem can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think that's really powerful because I still struggle with it to some level, and I think others do as well. Is there's a fear in starting to say no to opportunity that's around you to really commit to one thing, but the value in it is so much greater. So some people might look at like, wow, should I go this way? Should I go that way? Which one should I do? Or I do all these things. Look at all the things I do. I'm important because I'm really busy. But that's usually not the best answer. It's not, you can do it, but it's not the best answer for most of us that want to level up and go do bigger things.
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot of times, that there are problems that are around us all, all the time. And we kind of gloss over them, and that's the way life is. That's the way this industry is. That's the way this system or this process is. And for whatever reason, something happened where I started to see, well, and I did not know it was a problem elsewhere. I just thought it was a problem here. But when you, to your point, when you get focused and you say, "I'm going to try to tackle this one little problem," and it really just started off with the problem of how does anybody find where to build? In fact, our tagline is "Find your place." So who'll find your place? And the whole premise is, if somebody wanted to build, how do they find those neighborhoods? Well, we gotta pull them together. And then it takes it to a whole nother level when you go, okay, how do you do that for every city in the United States? And
Yeah.
and bring them all together. But there are there's problems that have complexity, and what we have to do is like focus and simplify. How do you break it down and find the opportunity to pull the opportunity out of the problem?
I'd love to hear the journey of creating this from more of a revenue or cash flow perspective. I mean, don't share any more than you're comfortable with, but just from all business owners, it's like, oh, like that's part of the thing. You said you started with developers. That's not cheap. Did you form a partnership? Did you just come out of pocket to self-fund to start?
Yeah. At the time, it was just it started off. It was just me funding it, and funding it from my money that I was making as a realtor. One of the things that I began to see is when I had the platform, and this was long before today. In 2018, we started making it available outside of our local area, and now Hoodle is in like 50 cities across the United States. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg. We're just getting started. So But when I started it myself, I saw it created a massive differentiation for me as a realtor, where all of a sudden builders, land developers, and buyers were saying, wow, you specialize, you're solving this problem. And I think there's something about articulating a problem too, that when we begin to articulate the problem and address the problem, people begin to see you as thought leader or game changer in that thing, even if you haven't solved the problem yet. The very fact that you're calling out the problem. And so, they began to see me as different, and my business grew. And so, yeah, just started with me just funding it myself.
And man, when you're talking about the problem, I first heard through one of our business coaches, Alex Sharfin. Give a quick shout out to him.
Yeah.
He focused. You like Alex?
Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah. Great guy. And Alex, if you're watching, miss you. You're the man. He just brought a new awareness around how valuable it is to really, really be able to spend time practicing articulating the problem of your avatar, of your ideal customer, because the better you can describe that, and oftentimes I am the ideal avatar. I'm solving a problem that I really wanted solved for myself. So all the emotional side, the financial side, the intellectual side, the time commitment, the time lost, just all the different components to it. I think that's really powerful. So you see it, you see the problem, you're able to articulate it, your authority is growing, you're putting your money where your mouth is, you're growing this thing. Where was the first kind of deal or the first source of revenue? How are you monetizing?
So it's a subscription model, what other people would call a SaaS model, where, we've kept it right now. We're keeping the prices are kind of artificially low, where we want everybody to be there. And so, and everybody loves the concept. Nobody had done this before. So, you start, when you're doing a marketplace, you have to start with one side of that. And to your point, you really have to solve, even with a marketplace like this, where you've got builders, land developers, realtors, and buyers, and others that are wanting to be a part of it. And every one of those is like having a separate little mini business within the business, because each one of them has their own messaging, their own problems, their own go-to-market strategy, different channels. And so we had to learn to just like focus on one of those and get to the one side, but it's all a monthly subscription right now.
Perfect. So that's how you monetize. So all parties involved. So you're building a network of people that are like, hey, I have a role in this building a home process, whether I'm a land developer, whether I'm a home builder, whether I'm looking for a home, whether I'm looking to sell homes that are going to be built. And I'm sure there's even more roles than that. All of us would go to Hoodle. We subscribe to the service to be connected to the right people to get accomplished what we want faster.
Correct. Yeah. And on the subscription side, we'll always keep it free for the buyers. So it's always
okay.
Yeah,
it's a free service for them. Okay.
And professionals. And what was interesting about it too, and I didn't know what to call this when we started to do it. It was much later that I realized that there is such a thing as a multi-sided marketplace. Can you
elaborate on that? Multi-sided marketplace. Yeah, just explain what that is a little bit.
Well, a traditional web marketplace would be like an eBay, right? eBay, where you've got people who are selling something and you got people who are buying something, right? And eBay is the platform that creates the marketplace and is bringing together buyers and sellers. YouTube is a two-sided platform or two-sided marketplace where you've got content creators and content consumers, who are people who are making the videos, people who are watching the videos. So those are traditional marketplace. The future of marketplaces is more, I did not know this at the time, but in fact, it was much later. I read an article. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what we're doing. I didn't know that. Didn't know what to call it. But, the future marketplaces are where you're bringing together the whole ecosystem of a process. And so you have people that are, so it's not necessarily a builder connecting with a buyer always, or a realtor connecting with buyers, but we've got realtors connecting with builders and realtors connecting with land developers. And so you've got all this cross interaction that's happening. And any way it happens, there's business that's and revenue that's occurring for them. They're finding each other and they're doing deals, and so they're creating transactions even before the buyer shows up. Does that make sense at all?
It makes perfect sense. And I something that I would love to highlight there is, as that everyone listening to this, like if I'm doing this right now, so I'm saying this out loud, like this is something I would highly recommend doing. Be thinking about, hey, the industry that I'm in, who are the complementary services, who are all the pieces involved in the type of problem that I'm solving, and what's kind of the utility that I can create that people will continue to rely on because they don't want to turn it off. Why does that matter? SaaS is a very interesting business model, because there's continuity to it. That's great, but you're building a user base, which is the biggest companies in the world right now have the greatest amount of users. Amazon, Facebook, like the only I heard kind of, I think it was a recent documentary. I think it was on Netflix. It was The Social Dilemma or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And there was a really interesting line in there. They said the only two industries that refer to their customers as users is like drug lords and software companies. I was like, that's kind of funny. But obviously they're making a point, and you know how much people are using and consuming social. But the point is this: is attention is an insanely valuable right now in today's marketplace. Insanely valuable, so much so that SaaS continuity, yeah, that's great, but the leverage of what you can sell that asset that you're building for 5, 10, 15, even sometimes 20 times multiples. It's crazy. Right. So as all of us agency owners, service providers, sales and marketing professionals, the problem that we're help solving, how do we pull all the parties together and build the utility, a tool that we constantly use every single day? We're all using software. I'm using StreamYard right now, right?
Right.
We met on Zoom just before this to get tech all sorted. We use all different types of software, project management software, CRMs. These are utilities. What is your utility of your industry? And Ron, you're sharing the one that you created.
Right.
And yours.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, when you step back, and that's a great way to articulate it, Chris. You know, when you step back and really start to look at whatever industry you're in, or where you are, or industry that you're familiar with, you know, you begin to find these just big gaps in the way that it's done. And since I guess I've always been kind of a systems thinker, and you know, part of it is you start looking at, well, what's the problem that this user has? What's the problem that this type of user has? And all of a sudden you start to realize that there are streamlined ways that we could create if we change if we step outside of the box of the way it is and say, well, how could it be? And how could we work together to make this better for everybody? And then, you know, this is when you start to come across things that are truly disruptive or game changer type of ideas, I think.
Disruptor, such a powerful word right there. A good friend of mine who is also building another software company, he's like, Chris, I'm a disruptor. I go in there to shake things up, and you know, I mean, in the more classic line and phrase, I'm assuming most of us have heard is, you know, for the T model, Henry Ford T model, or somewhere in there, you know, if Henry would have listened to what people wanted, they would have said a faster horse.
Exactly.
But he didn't give them what they wanted. He gave them what they needed, and he thought about it in a different way, and it worked out for him.
Yeah,
and us.
Pretty good.
So, hey, Ron, I really appreciate the time, letting us kind of step into your world a little bit. How you, you know, were able to focus and niche down and allow yourself to solve just one small problem that really ended up being a really big value, and encourage us business owners and leaders to follow suit and lead in our industry in a similar way.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Chris.
If people are, you know, more curiosity, like want to connect with you more, where's the best place to find you?
Probably LinkedIn. Facebook is full up. You know, I'm always having to, you know, kick people off, you know, which my mom and kids aren't going to appreciate that, but, you know,
as long as they don't get kicked, right? I mean, you're good.
Yeah. So, but probably LinkedIn is the best place.
Ron Williams at LinkedIn, CEO and founder,
Yes.
full founder of Hoodle. And yes, so if you're looking for a place, and I was just talking with Ron earlier, I was like, because we're currently renting, and was looking at like, you know what? Well, I'm probably gonna buy a home at some point. Like, what should I buy? What do I want to buy? And where my wife and I have kind of gone in that conversation is, nah, I think we're gonna build something. And so just meeting, you today, Ron, I was like, wow, how timely is this perfect service? And it's free for buyers. Did you guys hear that? So I just had to go search on there. I'm totally going to do that, by the way. So, Ron, I appreciate it. The last thing I always like to ask anyone that comes on here, business is challenging. It can be soul sucking, can be a lot of fun, but even when it's fun and passion filled, it's still a lot of work, and there's a lot of sacrifice that goes with it. What's your drive? What's your why of being an entrepreneur? Why spend your time and devote your life to solving this problem?
I'll see if I can tell you the answer short.
That's a good answer is coming when that's the reaction.
My background way back when, years and years ago, when I was probably your age or whatever, originally I went to Bible college and I was in the ministry, and wanted to just serve people. And so pretty quickly after I got out of Bible college, started working in the church and realized I didn't want to work in the church. I do want to serve people, but I did not want to work in the church. And nothing wrong with church. It's just, they don't appreciate pastors that swear from the pulpit and stuff. So, and
it didn't work out.
So, but anyway, I got into business, and there was always this thing inside of me, how can I, and particularly in the area of homelessness, I wanted to figure out, is there a way I can serve the world in helping people get out of homelessness? And so short answer to what you asked, when this came about, and I haven't told you most of it, but I mean, industry leaders from real estate and home building and mortgage companies and home building products all started coming around going, this is massive, and it's got a opportunity to have a big footprint and voice. There was a realization that I believe what we can do is to create this network, and all of us, create a network that is kind of infused with, all of us. How can all of us, builders, home, land developers, roofers, financiers, funders, etc., work together to get people out of homelessness? And so that's kind of what we call the greater good. I don't talk about it a lot. I guess this is probably the first time I've gone public with it, but that is our driving force. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's not about, I don't care for my tombstone to say Ron made builders more wealthy. I love the challenge of the person that you have to grow into to take on a large goal, and the people that we become on the other side of this. But the bigger drive for me is, our goal with Hoodle is to get, ultimately, not just to disrupt the industry, but to get a massive number of people out of homelessness.
Ron, thank you so much for coming on. Beautifully said. I know you're adding a ton of value and perspective to people's lives today, and I appreciate you for it.
Thank you very much, Chris. Really enjoyed it, and let me know how I can help anytime in the future.